What I learned is successful people are willing to do what unsuccessful people are not. So I'm successful because I'm willing to do what you ain't willing to do. I'm willing to get up early. I'm willing to stay late. I'm willing to do that over again. And when I don't feel like doing it, I get up and I do it again. And that difference between me and you. I'm gonna keep going when I don't feel like going. You wanna go as long as it's comfortable and convenient. But then you wonder why you ain't got what I got. You ain't going where I'm going.
Welcome to Closing the Gap Podcast, The Truth About Wealth. I am your host, Pastor Eddie Richardson, here with our host and owner of Hamilton Wealth Advisors, Mr. Wilbert Hamilton. How you doing today, my friend?
Hey, always blessed and highly favored.
Amen, amen. That's always great to hear. And we thank you all for tuning in to another righteous and holy episode of Closing the Gap Podcast, where we strive to give you the truth about wealth. And the truth is, man, we care about you and we want you to be successful. It is important that everybody is enabled with all of the proper information to become who God desires them to be. And that's part of our goal here. Our mission here at Closing the Gap Podcast is to teach everyone about wealth and then make that wealth generational. And what does generational mean? Well, it means that wherever it starts is not where it ends. Some of you will be the first in your family to generate wealth that is passed down to the next generation. And sometimes the burden of being the first is heavy.
Yeah.
Right. But we want to let you know that the burden that you're carrying by becoming the first or the second or the third, wherever your station a lot in your generational family tree is in accordance to building the wealth, it's not too heavy that you can't bear it. The scripture says that Jesus said, take my yoke upon you because my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And so we want you to take on this yoke of building generational wealth. And once you have the proper knowledge, then the burden is lighter. Why is the burden lighter when you have the knowledge? Well, because you're not pressing up against the wall. You're not struggling and straining to move forward because now you have the full understanding of how you need to move and what you need to do in order to build wealth for you and the next generation. And Wilbur, that's kind of where we're going to go in this episode today, is about building, having the proper information, and with that, what we want everybody to realize is that me as a barber and a pastor, but I'm going to talk somewhat from the barber side for the title of this show, is everybody with clippers ain't a barber. Everybody with clippers is not a barber. What am I saying? Is that just because you buy some clippers and you cut hair a few times, that does not make you a barber. Just because you read some books, get some information about how to build financial wealth, that does not mean that you are a financial advisor, right? You have to get the proper training. And we want everybody to talk to people that have the proper training, because oftentimes what happens, Wilbur, is we allow people to do things just because they said they can do it. And then when it doesn't work out like we want it to work out, we get upset at them. When we didn't read the proper signs of why they said what they said and they did what they did, and it didn't work out for us. And it didn't work out for us because they were not qualified to do the job.
Absolutely. Well, unfortunately that happens on far too many occasions, and honestly in far too many professions. Of course, nowadays everybody is a investment advisor. You can look on social media and everybody can tell you how to, buy stock, sell stock, trade stock, buy options, do this, do that. They can tell you exactly what you need to do to make more money. But can they show you they've done it for themselves?
Yeah.
Can they refer you or provide any references as to who they've worked for? Better yet, do they have an office you can go to and sit down and talk to them in? Do they have any licenses that you can look up? See, in my world, in being a licensed financial advisor, which means I'm obviously operating in a very heavily regulated environment. And there are actually websites where you can go look up my background and see what licenses I currently hold, how long I've been licensed, what college I went to, if I have any disciplinary actions against me, if I have any, credit actions against me, if I have any bankruptcies, if I have any delinquencies or collection items, or, pretty much my entire background. Going back to college essentially is online for the public because I'm a licensed advisor and you have a right to know exactly who you're working with. You have a right to know that, hey, you know what? If this person is going through some type of bankruptcy or has some type of financial issues in their own life, that may not be the person you take advice from. Now, that doesn't mean that because someone is going through something that they're a bad person or that they can't be a good advisor. But if I know you need $100, am I going to allow you to hold my $100? That it doesn't make a lot of sense here. So we're going to, call a spade, and that is not just obviously in advising. That's in every area of life. That's when it comes to your CPA. Are they licensed? Are they accredited? Do they have client bases? Do they have references? Can you look them up online? And that's not the end all be all, but you should be able to find out some information in regards to their background and how long they've been operating as such. So we want to make sure that, we obviously keep the main thing, and we work with people who are licensed, credentialed professionals, because that increases the likelihood of our success, because they're probably going to have access to more information. They're going to have to be following some type of continuing education guidelines. There are going to be some rules and some checks and balances. They're going to have to make sure they do a certain amount of due diligence before they just make certain recommendations. So, we have to understand, how important it is to, vet people properly. Unfortunately, far too many people decide who they work with based on who that person knows, not based on the job they're actually doing for the people they've come in contact with. We've allowed, the social media and marketing to dictate our decision making, not the actual factual job that's being done for clients. So, I don't want to just know who you've worked with. I want to have an understanding of the job you've done for the people you've worked with, because we can all market ourselves to look like we're doing a lot. And of course, social media is a place where everybody is showing you the best version of themselves, and even the version of themselves that really don't exist. They're showing you what they want you to see and what they want you to believe, not the actual truth behind the veil. So we have to understand, and that's why, these regulatory bodies that, CPAs and financial advisors and attorneys work under are there. They're there for your protection. It's the reason why, when you go in the barbershop, you have your license on the wall.
That's right.
That means that you have gone through some type of education. You've attained a certain level of credential to be able to practice this particular area of expertise. We need to make sure that we're working with people who have a certain level of expertise. So, and this is why obviously we push, obviously at Closing the Gap and even the Hamilton Wealth Advisor, why we push professionalism and working with professionals, because, also working with professionals provides some safeguards. There are some safety nets there. There's some things that we're not going to recommend that we're not going to do because of, us having to operate in a certain way to make sure that we have your best interests at heart. It's why I operate as a fiduciary advisor, which means I'm legally obligated to work in my client's best interests, which means I'm going to make sure that you know the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not just going to sell you the dream and not tell you what you have to go through to actually achieve the dream. See, and that's what happens on social media with a lot of people. People are throwing out at you, this is how you attain the dream. This is the dream. This is the dream. I can help you get the dream. But not actually telling you what you have to do to actually achieve the dream. Right. They're not telling you how disciplined you have to be. They're not telling you the steps that you have to take. They're not putting together a written plan for you to follow so you can actually achieve that dream. They're not giving you the bad that you got to go through to get to the good. Wow. Because that's what social media does. They're trying to reel you in with what appeals to your senses, and usually your sense of sight and then your sense of sound. It's the reason why the Bible said that the devil was what? He lended had musical gifts. He was able to, play instruments, and he was basically able to lure you into his web of deceit. And that has not changed today. You know, what's appealing to our eyes is not always what's good to you. And the way Mama would say it is, everything that glitter ain't gold, and everything that sparkle ain't a diamond. So be careful out there. Just make sure that you understand that you do your due diligence, because, like I say, a cubic zirconia can look just like a real diamond.
Yeah.
But they're not made the same way. The diamond has been through some things. It's been through a lot of pressure. It's gone through the fire, so to speak. You know, we have to understand that, you know, we want to work with people who have done the same thing. We want to work with people who have gone through the educational courses, who have put in the time and the energy, had to take the test to become certified to work in a certain area, because that means they're going to be more committed to seeing things through and helping you be the best version of yourself. People who are looking to somewhat trick you, you know, through social media persuasion and through marketing persuasion, they're trying to take the shortcuts and the short routes to just attaining clientele in order to make a dollar. And at the end of the day, yes, do professionals want to make a dollar? Absolutely. Correct. They want to be compensated for their work. But at the same time, they understand that they are a servant for you first. And then the benefit of their service is that they're rewarded financially for doing the job and helping you. And that's just an exchange of goods and services at that particular point in time. So, you know, we have to understand that, you know, it's vitally important to make sure that we seek the right kind of help and that professional help, because at the end of the day, it's going to make a world of difference. And then, you know, at the end of the day, that helps provide some recourse. You know, if someone is unlicensed and uncertified, and you provide them all of the access to your accounts, and you allow them to, you know, oversee your money, and they don't have any fiduciary responsibility, they don't have any oversight, they can take your money and run off with it. And how do you go and get it back? And you go into the police office, and the police state saying, well, I gave them my money, and, you know, they ran off with it. Well, you know, were they licensed and accredited? Did they have, you know, any type of errors and omissions insurance? Do they have, you know, any type of, you know, license that says what they could or couldn't do? Or you just gave them your money based on what you thought they did off of social media? Or you heard that they made somebody some money, or you heard that they did X, Y, Z, but did you actually see anything? Did you see the plan that they put together for anyone? Or they just told you and you became so enamored with what sounded good to you that you took and ran with it?
Yeah. So I want to bring this into context. Why are we talking about this? Well, we're in a series talking about name, image, likeness, and legacy. Name, image, likeness, and legacy. Talking about NIL and how that can create new legacies. There are plenty of children that are in the system now that are earning money, that many of you have family members, your children, your cousins, nieces, nephews are already in college and earning NIL income, or you have somebody coming up through your family that has that type of potential and that you know, or a friend or someone. Well, it's important that we communicate these things to you to inform you that don't just trust anybody that says that they can do something to help you with the NIL deal that your child or relative is having. But make sure that the people that you involve in the process, that you properly vet them, and that they have the proper licensing to perform the work that they speak and say that they can do. You know, from a pastoral perspective, when it comes to the call of God on a pastor, you know, that's something that, you know, God qualifies, right? But you can tell whether or not a person is qualified by the example that they exhibit, you know, which is what you were saying earlier about even from the finances, when somebody's qualified, has the licenses on the wall where you can hold them accountable.
Yes.
But then past the accountability, what type of work have they put forth? What type of performance have they put forth?
Yes.
When the kids are recruited to go and play in these sports, the coaches, teams, they want to see some tape. And if they see the tape, then after seeing the tape and hearing about them, then they want to show up and they want to see it in live action for themselves.
Yes.
To see, okay, based on what I heard and what I saw on tape, now I want to see it in real life and see if it's true.
Yes.
Right. And so that's all we're saying today as well. That's what we're leading into as we go on into this show, is that we want you to not only just hear about somebody that can give you the assistance that you need, and not only just go to their website and read about it or go to their social media page and see them, but no, we want you to be able to go into their face and hear them and see the type of work that they've done. As a pastor, as I said, you can tell the fruit of a pastor. You can tell what type of pastor it is by the fruit that they bear. You can tell a tree by the fruit that it produces. And that's what we want you to examine in all facets of your life. Don't just allow people to tell you that they can do something and then you give them your life, essentially, is what you're doing when you hand over your money, is you're giving them your life, your earnings, your potential, and then trust that they can do it, and you hadn't taken the time to make sure they can do what they say that they can do. Yes. And why is that important? Well, as we talk about name, image, likeness, and legacy, is the legacy part is what you are entrusting these persons with. And when you give them your legacy, now they are determining whether your legacy survives or not. And if we look at it in that way, we will be more attentive,
yes,
to the things that we do. We will seek out wise counsel. The scripture, Proverbs, talks about having a multitude of counselors. And counselors are not just friends all the time. Counselors are trained, licensed people that have put in the hours of work.
yes,
And that's the key there, that we do know that there are some people that don't have certain licenses for certain things, but they put in a certain amount of hours. I did that, right? Cutting hair. I put in the hours growing up, cutting hair, practicing cutting hair, right? But to work in that barbershop, the city required me that, hey, we don't care how many hours you put in that weren't on our paperwork. We need to see the hours that you put in. We need to record the hours that you put in to make sure that we can give you the license and we can stand behind you, even to get insured, right? They desire those things. So that's what we're talking about today. Name, image, likeness, legacy. Everybody that has clippers is not a barber. Everybody that says that they can just do your taxes is not a tax professional, nor are they a CPA. They are not required to inform themselves about how the tax code changes year after year, right? As a pastor, God holds me accountable, and even the people that I lead hold me accountable, because when I show up on Sunday morning, they are looking for a word from the Lord. They have stress that they are striving to get free from. They have life's pressures that they need assistance. And so as I enter into the church, I know that they are looking for a word from the Lord. And so during the week, I have to put in the hours of training, the hours of study. And so that's what we're going to talk about as we get into these next couple of segments, is what type of things you need to look forward to when you're talking to people about what it is that you are trying to build in your legacy moving forward. And we'll see you back after this commercial break.
What are we doing in the black community? The number one consumer of a Mercedes-Benz is us. The number one consumer of a Gucci and a Louis Vuitton, us. And they don't even advertise. Why is it that in the black community, we are always the number one consumer, but we're not the number one creators?
So you just said it, the fact that there's consumers and creators. For so long, we assume success based on consumption.
Welcome back to Closing the Gap Podcast, Truth About Wealth. And today we're talking about who do you allow to do the work. And the show is entitled "Everybody with Clippers Ain't a Barber." How do you vet the people that you allow to work with you? It's important because we don't have a lot of time. Right, time is one of the most precious things in life, and
Absolutely.
we have to value our time. And we want you to cut down on taking as many risks with having to go through trial and error. Because I believe, Wilbur, that when as the scripture says, having a multitude of counselors, you can make righteous decisions, is that what that does is it saves you a lot of time because you don't have to take the risk of doing things because you have the right people around you, you have the right information, and therefore that saves you time because they have the proper knowledge to get the things done in the manner in which they have to do them. And so when we talk from a sports perspective, I think a lot of times people look at age and youth and they feel like I'll be able to do this for a long time, but they don't realize how fast the whistle comes and blows. That before you know it,
It's over.
it's over. You know, but you can speak to that personally when your experience as a football player, your experience knowing quite a few guys that, you know, did make it to the league and then what their careers were like in that time. And I know it's a different time now as we speak of NIL, but I think the timeline is still the same because when you're in college, you know, you've seen some players in various sports that had a lot of promise, but then injuries came.
Yes.
Right. And so I think it's important for us to tell the people how to navigate, you know, getting yourself prepared before that whistle calls you just out of the game and closes you out.
Yes. I mean, it's, you know, we very rarely do you get a chance to walk away from the game or you see someone get a chance to walk away from the game on their own terms. In most situations, I'm going to guess probably 90% of the time, if not more, we're usually having to walk away from the game, and we're not walking away. The game is snatched away from us. For most people, it's either by choice or by force. And the choice is you were playing, and then somebody else made a different choice for as far as what you on the team, and then by force was injury, age, and attrition just kind of, you know, withered away at you. So, you know, we always assume when you're young, and I remember being, you know, 20, 21, 22, you think you got so much time on your hands, you think it's just going to go on forever, and all of a sudden, when it ends quick and fast. And, you know, I know that feeling personally when I feel like the door was slammed shut, and I'm just like, wow, what just happened? And I had to make decisions as far as, you know, what did I want to do? Did I want to continue to, you know, chase a dream? I remember having, you know, opportunities because back at this time, you still had what's called NFL Europe at this time. And I had opportunity to possibly go for NFL Europe. I had some Arena League offers to go play. I had an opportunity to go play in Canada with the BC Lions. I had an opportunity to go there. So, you know, I'm having to make a decision that says, okay, well, how am I going to continue my career when the NFL doesn't look like it's going to be my option, at least for this year? And they're saying, hey, you can go here, play here, get some more film, get some more tape, and, you know, come back next year. And I'm looking and I'm saying, man, how much more time do I have? You know, how much more time do I want to put into this? Because that's a decision as well. And I'm thankful that I was able to look at myself in the mirror and make a decision, albeit a difficult one to a certain extent. You know, to say, look, thankfully I've, you know, got my education. So I have some options. Now, whether or not I want to exercise those options at the time, it's a different conversation because, you know, none of us want to give up the game because we are, you know, we've fell in love with the game, you know, and it's even much different, I think, from these kids nowadays because I don't believe they love the game the way we love the game. But it may be a conversation for another show, but they love more so, in my opinion, what the game can do for them, more so than we just love the game because we didn't have the opportunity, obviously, to get paid NIL, and in a lot of states you can get paid NIL in high school.
Right.
And of course in college. We didn't have that opportunity at all. It was strictly maybe a dream to make it to the NFL and make money, but prior to that, you're playing strictly because you just love to play. You just love to compete. So that gave us a little bit of different mindset. But at the end of the day, the time frame and the amount of, licks that our body could take, from the physical contact and the physical pounding in a sport like football, brought upon you, there was always a time limit and expiration date on it. And it's funny, when I work with clients now and I'm doing the financial planning, I tell them all the time, I said, look, I'm planned in the end and the beginning.
Okay.
And that's really what you have to do when it comes to athletics and even with NIL. And I'm thankful that NIL exists now for these young men and women, because what used to be for a football player, the average NFL career was 3 years, 2.5 to 3 years.
Okay.
That's the average NFL career. And that's obviously not a long period of time. So you think about the amount of time that the average football player has to generate revenue to hopefully last, or try to make last, so-called for the rest of their life, is a very short time frame. Now, with the blessing that is now NIL, that is expanded from just say 3 years if you're lucky enough to make it, to now 7 years, because you got 4 years and a possible 5. So now you have almost a 7 to 8 year career that you're truly a professional where you can earn revenue. Where it used to be, it was always, we used to hit the statistics of the 1% of the 1% of the 1% make it. You have 1% of guys that play in junior high become, college eligible or to have a scholarship. And that 1% of those high school seniors make it to college. And then that, 1.5% of those NCAA eligible, draftees get drafted to come play in the NFL. So it's always the 1% of the 1% of that 1%, and so you have to think about how special you have to be in order to make that transition to the next level that everybody's not going to obviously get a chance to make. But that's why it's so important to maximize your time and not waste your time, but also not for these young men and women, not to waste your money. Because as we know now, being older, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. You got to take care, do right by this money the first time around, because there may not be a second time.
Yeah.
Because if we know if 1.5% of kids from college are making it in the NFL, that means that 99% are not going to make it. So what you do with your financial resources for those 4 years will determine the head start in the life that you live and what you transition to. And that is extremely and vitally important. If you can transition to a life where you have a retirement fund already set up and rolling, you could have college tuition paid for kids, you could have the down payment or a home purchased based on what you have done in college. That is a head start in life. That is life changing. I think we all could think back to say it. If we were coming out of college and we had a house paid for, a car paid for, and we have retirement dollars already invested with money left in the bank, I think we would say, you know what, hey, that's a pretty good head start. I'm in a pretty good situation. Well, that's exactly where these kids are now, if the right thing is done. If we don't let them go too far outside the box, buying too many cars, buying too much jewelry, spending too much on clothes, enjoying life a little bit too much when it comes to the travel and the access. Because as we know, too much is given, much is required. And as you receive more, your options and opportunities become more and greater, but also they become more expensive. You have some expensive lessons that come around because you're now in a situation where you're receiving income. You're more of a target in a number of different ways. So we have to start making sure that these kids understand the opportunity that's being presented to them, because the length of their careers has now been expanded. Where if you was going to make it 3 years, now you have an 8-year career. That is a long career. If somebody said they played 8 years in the NFL, that means they had a very long and successful career in the NFL if the average career is only 3 years. So now, essentially, these kids are in college signing professional NIL contracts. You're signing to receive compensation. You can go out and get endorsement deals the same way you can in the NFL. You can do all these things. So you're able to receive revenue, receive income, and put yourself in a better situation based on your play on the field right now. Now, that's the good part about it. The negative side of that is that you have real life consequences that come along with those decisions. You have the consequences of not paying taxes and the repercussions of that, just like you would if you were in the NFL or as a grown up outside of the NFL and living your life. You have the consequences of the target being on your back from people wanting to take advantage of you. When you have a number of different people that are stalking your social media, that are seeing, oh, this kid just received this NIL for this amount. Oh, I'm seeing how they're traveling and buying jewelry and living, so they must have some disposable income. So now all of a sudden, you become a target to scammers saying, hey, you know what? I have this great investment idea for you. I have this great, real estate idea for you. I have this business venture that would be excellent for you to put your money into. I don't know if you've heard, but there is a situation that happened not too long ago. Well, there was a young man who allegedly was trying to scam several NFL players. And some way, somehow, for some reason or another, he has passed away somewhat recently. Now it is a ongoing investigation. Don't know exactly what happened, why it happened, what's going on, but to whom much is given, much is required. So with these young men and women coming into more, they have to understand that they have a different target on their back for a number of different reasons, from a number of different people. So we need the gatekeepers. We need mom and dad, aunt and uncle, whoever's the business manager, whoever the people that are involved, to make sure that they're doing their job by getting better educated, by making sure that they're not getting lost in the sauce, so to speak, that make sure that they're not getting caught up in wanting to live a lifestyle as opposed to provide direction. See, nowadays we get a lot of people that should be providing direction and guidance. They're getting caught up in the lifestyle as well because they feel like they didn't get a chance to live that lifestyle themselves. So because they mismanaged or didn't properly apply themselves in their time to make the most out of their lives, now the talent and the gifts that their children have is now almost providing a second go round. So now they're seeing that, and they're seeing the opportunities and hearing about the money that's going to come down the pipeline for the children. And they're saying, man, this is a way for me to maybe right some wrongs. This is a way for me to go out and maybe do some things differently. And now they're taking chances, not thinking about what the future of that child is going to be, but thinking about how they can hopefully make up the 30 years that they messed up in the 4 years that this kid is now in college. And that's where we're leading these kids astray. That's where they're getting taken advantage of, because a lot of people are trying to right their own wrongs as opposed to provide direction and guidance. See, when I come into the picture, I'm able to evaluate everything going on in the situation, which is why a lot of people avoid true professionals, because true professionals are going to provide a certain level of accountability. They're going to provide a certain level of education. They're going to have a process of due diligence that they're going to follow. And one thing that I've learned in my time as being a financial advisor and being a professional is that people who don't hold themselves to that same type of standard, they get a little intimidated by people that do. I give Nick Saban a lot of credit. He said said several great things. One of them is mediocre people don't like hanging around high achievers, but also high achievers don't like hanging around mediocre people. And if you've been mediocre in your own life, as far as doing what you're supposed to do, educating yourself, being accountable to yourself, doing the right things, and all of a sudden you see someone else as the opportunity to push yourself forward, I'm the kind of individual that shines a light on that. And see, people who lack accountability, they don't like the light shined on them. They want to continue to hide in the darkness. They want to just kind of go through life, navigating their way, doing it how they want to do it, hoping that nobody sees them. But when you bring in true professionals, the first thing we do is we shine a wide light on everything going on in the situation. And then people who don't provide value, they start to get nervous because they understand and they know in their minds that they don't provide real value to the situation. So instead of saying, you know what, let's see how we can become better together, they start to hide and push certain professionals away. And this is why so many of our kids get taken advantage of, because you have people around them scared that they're going to get exposed for their lack of professionalism, that they keep real professionals out, which is why our community as a whole has suffered, because we have rejected true professionalism in a number of different ways. We're doing it right now, unfortunately, in too many situations when it comes to NIL athletes. We've done it when it comes to our HBCUs. We've done it when it comes to our churches. And we've done it when it comes to a lot of our organizations where we've allowed titles to be in charge and take overall representation of the organization and make decisions as opposed to having true accountability from real professionals. See, a guy told me one time, he said, you know the difference between the board for a PWI and somebody on the board for HBCU? He said, in order to be on the board for a PWI, you got to be able to do one or two things. Either you can write a 7-figure check or you can get somebody to write a 7-figure check. In order to be on the board of an HBCU, you just got to be appointed by one of your friends. That is the difference in why we are always a day late and a dollar short. And this is why we have to make sure that we close the gap. From an NIL perspective, from an education perspective, so we can ensure that the opportunities that these kids now have to earn a great living while getting an education and still take advantage of that education while you're able to play football, basketball, baseball, whatever it is that you're doing, and use that money to leverage yourself and to put it away. Because guess what? You're in college. How much money do you really need to spend while you're in college? You really don't need a lot. You know, you've been making nothing. Now you're getting something. So that's why it's important to write it down and make it plain and have that budget. So we're going to say, you know what? You now have an NIL deal where you're making $250,000, $300,000 a year. That's more than everybody in your family never made before. How about we just gonna set your budget for yourself at $50,000 a year? We're gonna let you pay yourself $4,000 to $5,000 a month to enjoy yourself. Because it's 18, 19, 20, 21, you don't need more than $4,000 to $5,000 a month because you're not buying them but food and clothes. You don't have any major responsibilities outside of that just yet. So that other $200,000 that you have coming in, now we can properly plan. That's your head start. And now if we do that, and let's just say you stay on the same NIL deal for the next 4 years, that means over that 5-year time frame while you were in college, you earned $1.25 million. So if you were to invest $200,000 a year, that means you would have invested $1 million over that time frame, plus the growth over that time frame. So that 1 million is probably grown to 1.5. We got to pay some taxes, so we're gonna back $200,000 back out for taxes. But now we still have a net gain of probably over $1 million that we've invested over this 5-year time frame. That is head start. That is how we close the gap in our community, by making good decisions from accountability and proper direction. And we'll see you right back after this break.
Welcome back to Closing Gap Podcast, Truth About Wealth. I'm Pastor Eddie Richardson here with my good brother, Mr. Wilbur Hamilton. And we were talking about today, everybody with clippers ain't a barber. And it's important that you know who you're working with and whether or not they have the proper licensing that they need to have in order to get things done for you. And we're talking now about name, image, likeness, and legacy, how to make sure that the earning potential that these young people have now going into college can create a legacy that will outlast our lives if it is handled properly. But today we want to make sure that you have the right people around the legacy building, right? Because everybody says that they can do something because they see the opportunity that can be had. You know, the person that has some clippers at home that lines themselves up, gives themselves a shave, will look at somebody that's in need of a haircut and say, hey, I can cut your hair. Well, what type of haircut are you going to get? Yes, your hair is going to get cut, but that does not mean that it's going to be in the style that you need. And many people can assist you in trying to build your wealth, but will that wealth be built in a manner in which it will be able to be passed on generationally? So I want you to be able to understand that your family is your family. We cannot change our bloodline of who we have grown up with, who our cousins, aunts are, uncles, or any of that. But we can control whether or not we listen to them when it comes to our finances. What type of example have they led? Do they have the proper qualifications to speak on the things that I need for me, right? Love can love you, but love doesn't always lead you to where you need to be, because some people, their love for you is more selfish. And so we are striving to provide you the information because we love God and we know that God loves you, and we know that God will put the right people around you that you can find what you need. And so we want to speak to that today and let you know that you need to know what you need to ask for. When you're vetting people and vetting what your needs are, you need to know what to ask for. You need to know about the things that Wilbur said earlier, those timelines of what the investing that you have, the investing timeline potential that you have to earn. Being realistic with yourself about who you are and what your skill set is, and who your child is and what their skill set is. Do they really have the potential to be a long time veteran in whatever sport that they play? Or will they just be on the college team? You know, I think that's important as well. Where we sometimes have these unrealistic expectations.
Yes.
And because we have an unrealistic expectation for our child, because we love our child, we are not honest about what our child's true athletic potential is. And as a result, we set up those same unrealistic expectations on what their earning potential is. And there are parents that end up quitting jobs because they hear that the child has the potential to make a certain amount of money, and then they're disappointed when the child doesn't do that because they weren't honest and they listened to the wrong people. They didn't talk to a professional that really looks at the child, evaluates the child, and tells you what this child's upside is, what their downside is, what type of mentality they have, and whether or not certain schools will pay them what the pay rate is for their earning potential of an NIL deal. And so therefore, now we crack holes in the legacy.
Yes.
Because we have unrealistic expectations. So we have to understand that just because you have an opportunity doesn't mean that the door is going to open up wide.
Yes.
Some kids have to slide through.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a child that slides through, that does not mean that they will not earn something.
Correct.
Potentially. But based on what they earn, it's important to have the conversation with, Hamilton Wealth Advisors and get your game plan set of how we're going to take that amount of money and invest it to be able to create a legacy. Because it doesn't matter whether it's a penny or $1 million. If invested correctly, it can produce a return.
Yes.
Right? Because it's money. And so that's what we want you to understand, is that you need to understand who you are. You need to understand what the true potential is. And then you also need to understand how to structure your business properly, right? Know that the people that are around you, they may be loyal to you, as I said, love, but you can't take love and invest it in the stock market.
Not at all.
You have to have proper agreements and contracts, even with your family. And sometimes that can be very challenging.
Yes.
Because when you're sitting across from a family member and you say, hey, look, let's put this on paper. Let's put this plan in place, this contract in place, so that we can do what needs to be done. Now, if your family member has the proper licensing, your family member is going to most likely come to you with the proper contracts and is going to allow you the time to read and gain an understanding, because that family member has an understanding.
Yes.
Because that family member knows that, hey, I have the proper credentials to assist you, even though you are my niece, nephew, cousin, or whatever the case may be. And I'm going to give you this paperwork because this is where we need to start. I'm going to have a conversation with you, and then I'm going to give you what you need. And then I'm going to allow you the freedom to find the lawyer or whoever else you need to vet the work. And so that's important as well, to have those type of people around you, right? But then if you have somebody on the other hand that is around you and they come to you and be like, hey, what's up, nephew? What's up, cuz? Hey, I'm going to take care of you. You ain't got to worry about nothing. We've heard those conversations. And those very ones that said they were going to take care of us were only looking to take care of themselves.
Absolutely.
Those very ones that said you ain't got nothing to worry about were the ones that we had everything to worry about, because they had great intentions, but their intentions were just about themselves. So you need to make sure that before you even sign any type of paperwork, that you take the time and pray and ask God, like, God, is this something that I need to be entering into?
Exactly.
Even if the person does have the proper licensing, even if you have properly vetted them, you need to have a consultation with God and ask God, do I need to do this with this person? Do they have my best interest in mind based on what you have in store for me? And oftentimes we leave it out.
Absolutely.
We leave God out of the mix. We don't come and have the conversation with God that we need to. We don't submit ourselves in prayer enough. Scripture says, Wilbur, that we should pray without ceasing. That while there are going to be some times that you are in certain situations that you can't get down on your knees and pray, that you need to take the time and breathe and internally just ask God, show me a sign if this is what I need to do. Show me a sign if this is not what I need to do. God, lead and direct my pathway to be aligned with you. And that's important, that when we talk about alignment, we want you to be first aligned with God. And then when you're aligned with God through Jesus Christ, then you're able to align all of your business matters with the proper people that you need to have them aligned with. And so once you do that, that's part of putting the plan together, right?
Absolutely.
That's part of having understanding that, okay, now this person that has some clippers, they may be a barber now, right? Because now I've seen the work. Now God has provided me the comfort and the peace to be able to move forward with them. And so that's what we want everybody to do. Be able to ask the proper questions about who they are, what their true capabilities are. And then question, make sure that your agreements are aligned with where you want to go. I want to go back, Will, as we talk about all the time. writing the vision and making it plain, having you a plan. And oftentimes we have a plan to try to get to college, to try to become the athlete.
Yep.
But in doing that, we don't put a plan down for our spiritual lives.
Yes.
We don't put a plan down for our financial lives. We don't put a plan down for what type of relationships we want to have with other people. I think that all of that is important, because if you do that, if you define what type of person you want around you, then that's the type of person that you will end up having around you, because you made a plan for it. And when you make a plan for those things, then you can achieve them. But oftentimes we will just take whoever befriends us to become our friend.
Yes.
And that person that you befriended may not be the person that you need to be around.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't, this person does not have an ego mentality. This person does not have a dogged mentality to achieve greatness.
Yes.
And now you've yoked yourself with somebody that does not have the same type of mentality that you have. And that's important, because if you want to get higher, you need to strive to get around some people that are already up there, or some people that are doing the things that dictate and show that they are striving to get there, because none of us are there yet. All of us are striving to reach, striving to ascend. So having those aspirations is good, but aspirations without a proper plan doesn't work for anybody.
Well, absolutely. And sometimes, I tell the athletes on many occasions, the most valuable word that you can ever learn is no. And that's a hard pill to swallow, especially for a young man, young lady who, wants to help so many people, wants to give back, is appreciative of the people that poured into them. And they just want to help. They want to see everybody win, because they get an opportunity to win themselves. And unfortunately, sometimes the people you got to learn to say no to is the people that's closest to you. I've literally witnessed personally. I had a young man that I work with that's, with the firm, and he just got drafted to the NFL this past draft.
Okay.
And he had declared for the draft, coming out of college, and he was expected to be, selected in the top rounds of the NFL draft. And, after he declared for the draft, his parents quit their jobs. Mom quit her job. Dad quit his job, because they're figuring that, you know what? My child is finna go to the NFL, finna make a bunch of money, and they're going to take care of me, and we're going to live happily ever after. And I had to deliver some bad news to him. And I said, I can deliver it to your parents for you on your behalf. But I'm sorry, but we don't take care of grown-ups. I said, we will lend a helping hand. I said, we are happy to help and see what we can do. But you can't commit to helping somebody when you haven't helped yourself yet. He is only declared for the draft. He has not been drafted. Now, thankfully, he ended up getting drafted, reasonably high, and having pretty good signing bonus. And he's, a millionaire now.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
But it's still not enough money to where mom and dad ain't got to work no more. That you can pay for any and everything that they need and still be comfortable and okay for yourself when you're just now making this transition from the 1% to the next 1%. And a lot of times the people around you don't understand the stress that that young man and young lady is under as they make that transition. But then they don't understand, because they don't understand how money works. And they don't understand that whatever value they see on the contract, you automatically have to cut it in half. And that the kid doesn't get all the money of the contract at one time up front. And, all they know is, well, you're a millionaire now. I'm like, well, but it doesn't work that way. No son or daughter should be retiring a mom and dad until they make it to their second contract in the NFL or NBA. Second contract. And this is going for guys who get drafted first round. I've had guys and work with guys that got drafted first round. NBA and NFL. And they have not made enough to retire mom and dad. Not yet. Because whatever the contract is, if you see a kid sign a $30 million contract, that means he only going to get 15. Because there's taxes, there's agent fees, there's escrow, there's different things that they have to pay that you can't even comprehend right now before they see any of that money. And then, of course, they have a lifestyle. They have loved ones. They have things that they want to do. And usually that money is spread out over a number of years as well, so they don't get it all at once. Luckily for football, they do get a signing bonus. So they do get to see a nice little piece at one time. But even then, the taxes are taken out before they get it. And then they have to pay the agent and do these different things that are requirements, for them. And then they can look at how can I help and be of assistance. But you haven't even given them the chance to take care of themselves first. It's like we always say, when you get on the plane, they tell you to put your mask on first.
Yeah.
You haven't even given me opportunity to save myself, and you're already asking me to save you. This is where, we've lacked in our community, and we've failed to close the gap. Because we have been in the NBA and NFL. But if you hear about all the stories of guys who've had and lost it, they usually didn't lose it completely because of themselves. They lost it because of what they were doing for everybody else around them. It's trying to carry your family, trying to carry your community, when everybody should be carrying themselves. This is why Hamilton Wealth Advisors is not just catered to just professional athletes. This is why I have clients of all walks of life. I have teachers, I have doctors, I have attorneys, I have executives and CEOs, I have professional athletes, I have people from all walks of life as clients. Because everyone who's earning the income and wants to retire should be working with an advisor to help plan for retirement. And if you plan for yourself and take care of yourself, then if you're lucky enough to have a child that can go to the NBA or NFL or get an NIL deal, now the assistance that they provide can now be the icing on the cake. It can be the gravy on the mashed potatoes. You don't have to have it, but we love to get it.
Yeah.
We don't have to have, I love pound cake on its own, but ain't nothing wrong with having a little chocolate ice every now and then.
Yeah.
Makes it a little bit better. Ain't nothing wrong with having a bowl of vanilla ice cream.
With it.
But every now and then you might want to add a little bit of whipped cream, a little bit of chocolate sauce on top, just to kind of tune it up a little bit, just to give you a little something extra. To take it from just a regular bowl of ice cream to a nice hot fudge sundae.
Right.
And that's what we got to allow these kids to be. We got to allow them to be the icing on the cake, not in the meat and potatoes that we depend on. And with that being said, we're going to close for the day, and we're going to see y'all next time as we continue our series on name, image, likeness, and help everybody create a legacy. And hopefully you create one for yourself. See you next time.